Hi, I'm Dustin Abbott, and I'm here today to give you my standard review of the brand new Sigma 24-70mm F2.8 DG-DN. And so this is a lens that is designed for full-frame mirrorless cameras coming in two mounts, a Sony full-frame E mount, which I'm reviewing here, then also a Leica L mount as well. This lens, when it arrived at my door, I knew that I was receiving a new yet unreleased Sigma lens to evaluate. I didn't know what it was. I was, of course, rather surprised when I saw that it was a second lens that had an overlap of a focal length and maximum aperture combination that had been covered only 13 months ago in the 24-70mm f2.8 DN lens. So I know that you as an audience, there's probably a number of different lenses that you are looking for from Sigma that you would prioritize over this one. But obviously Sigma sees a potential market, and I think that as I've spent time with the lens, I think I understand what that market is. Sigma has come to a realization in the last, I would say, probably about 15 months that there are actually two different markets out there. They've had a lot of success with their large maximum aperture, but also physically large, well-corrected art series lenses, and really it's helped to make Sigma's brand in the last 6 or 7 years. But at the same time, they have often neglected another market that exists, and that's those that want good performance, yes, but they don't want to compromise on having to carry a big, overly large lens, but rather they are interested in compact lenses that will get the job done. Sigma has started to address that with their I series, and I think that in many ways this 28-70mm f2.8 is a zoom that is along that same kind of philosophy. And so we'll see if the market bears out, if there is room for two Sigma lenses that cover a roughly similar focal length. Now, of course, you are giving up 4 millimeters here in that it only goes to 28 rather than 24 millimeters. And in some ways that kind of pits it more directly against the Tamron 28-75mm f2.8 RXD lens. This lens, since it was announced introduced a couple of years ago, has been the best-selling lens in the world since that point. So it's understandable that Sigma would like a part of that action. And so in some ways they've managed to one-up Tamron here, in that as you can see they have created a lens that is smaller still. Now it loses 5 millimeters on the telephoto end, but as you can see it also is about 14 millimeters shorter in overall length. It is only 103.5 millimeters in length and weighs only 470 grams. The Tamron by comparison is nearly 118 millimeters in length and weighs 550 grams. Both lenses are very similar in diameter, between 72 and 73 millimeters, and have a 67 millimeter front filter thread. And when it comes to the overall build, I actually like the feel of the materials a little bit better in the Sigma. It feels a little bit more pro grade. At the same time, however, the reality I think is different. This new Sigma lens only has a small gasket at the lens mount, whereas the Tamron has not only the gasket, but it also has 6 internal seal points and a fluorine coating on the front element. And so it actually has the more durable build, and I can attest to the fact that I've been shooting almost daily with this lens for my channel and photography work for a couple of years, and it still, operates and looks very similar to when I got it. I don't see any dust inside. So they've actually done a good job in engineering this lens. But if it's, as far as the impressions go, the Sigma does feel a little bit nicer. I like the materials, the ribbing on the focus, and the zoom rings are just a little bit nicer, more durable feeling. Now, unlike the Tamron that has no switches on the lens barrel, this does have at least one, and that's an AF/MF switch, always welcome. However, you do lose compared to the 24-70mm. There's no focus hold button. Neither is there a zoom lock to prevent a zoom creep. I don't know that the latter is going to be missed. The damping is fantastic on the actual zoom ring here, and also its position being very close to the camera. I doubt it's going to get inadvertently bumped all that much. I don't think that zoom creep is going to be a problem with this particular lens. You have about 3 centimeters of barrel extension, so it's not internally zooming, however it is internally focusing. And so there's no change in length when it comes to the focusing action. The inner barrel is nice and precise. There's no wobble in it. Everything feels, nicely engineered here. Focus ring also, it moves just fine. And I think that Sigma's done a good job with emulating, manual focus. It's focus by wire, but they've done a good job of giving you a decent focus experience despite that. So the lens itself has an STM, or a stepping motor inside. I've had very good success with Sigma's stepping motors. They are very quiet, they're fast in operation. Focus accuracy has been good. I would say that when it comes to video face tracking, that the Tamron lenses are just a hair more reliable, and I think that that is in large part because Sony owns a small stake in Tamron, and there is a reciprocal agreement that's allowed Tamron to have access to focus algorithms on Sony. So they get a little bit, more like a first-party focus performance. However, Sigma is very, very close in performance there. I have no real concerns here. It operated just fine. IAF these days, of course, is really, really reliable, basically no matter what I'm testing, so I won't devote a lot of time to that. But focus experience is everything that you would want and hope for here. There are 9 rounded aperture blades, and so as you stop the aperture down, you can see that the aperture shape stays, consistently round, and so good things there. Now, when it comes to minimum focus distance, like the Tamron, you have 2 different minimum focus distances and magnifications. One for the wide end, and so at 28 millimeters, you can focus down as close as 19 centimeters. Now, as you can see, that places you quite close to your subject, so you'll probably want to remove the lens hood, and so to prevent some shading. And it's a little bit harder to access because you have to get so close to the subject. But you do have a very useful 0.30 times magnification, though the Tamron does best that with a 0.34 times magnification, and also a little bit better performance up close. Likewise, if you zoom out to 70 millimeters, your minimum focus distance becomes 38 centimeters. So a little bit better working room, but again, the Tamron shares that focus distance, but it has 5 extra millimeters in focal length, and so it does give you a little bit better magnification level, 0.25. It's not listed here for the Sigma yet. I'm going to estimate it at 0.22 to 0.23 times. But once again, the Tamron is a little bit better up close. And so in general, the Tamron gives you a little bit better performance at close focus distances with a flatter plane of focus, but then also better contrast and a little bit better resolution. Now, if we look out to testing, just kind of real world, more typical image quality, what I find is that the Tamron is a little bit better in the center of the frame across the focal range. The Sigma is better starting at the mid frame and out into the corners. And at wide apertures in particular, it delivers a really even optical performance across the frame. That's particularly true at 28 millimeters, still similarly true at 35 and 50 millimeters with just a little bit of a corner drop off. 70 millimeters is a little softer overall, and it doesn't sharpen up as fast. Throughout most of the range, stopping down to f4 is all you need to really vastly improve contrast and overall optical performance. At 75 millimeters, 70 millimeters, I think that you're better served stopping down to f5.6 and even f8 if you want maximum corner-to-corner sharpness there. The Sigma does have a bit of a complex distortion pattern. It's barrel distortion, but not a linear, a little bit of dips in it, mustache pattern as we call it. And so it does have considerably less distortion than what does the Sigma 24 to 70 millimeter at 24 millimeters. However, it has a similarly complex pattern. So it will be better off when there is a, when Adobe, as an Adobe user or whatever your software is, when a profile is released there for raw correction. In the meantime, we do have correction for JPEGs and video in camera. There is also a pretty fair amount of vignette, and I would say somewhere around 3.5 stops in the corners at 28 millimeters, and that vignette does persist some as you stop it down. The Tamron is a little bit better in both of those metrics. It has less distortion, more easily correctable distortion at 28 millimeters, and less vignette overall. As you go throughout the zoom range, that changes to a pincushion distortion at 70 millimeters. However, that distortion is linear and it's easy to correct for. Also, vignette is lighter and more easy to correct for there as well. As far as chromatic aberrations, I only saw longitudinal chromatic aberrations in a couple of extreme torture test shots, like in this case where bright morning sun shooting through frost crystals on a branch. You can see that there's a bit of fringing there. But outside of that, I really didn't have any issue. I also found flare resistance to be quite good, and with minimal amounts of flare showing up, even if I pan back and forth across the sun. And so, by and large, I saw good results when it comes to the optical performance. So at the end of the day, this is certainly a competent lens, and I think it does a lot of things well, and I think the most impressive thing is that it does things well in such a small, compact package. If you're considering the similarly priced Tamron, it really depends a lot on your shooting style, with the Tamron being a little bit better in the center of the frame, the Sigma being better at the other parts of the frame. So you just have to kind of make a determination of what suits your purposes better. Certainly the biggest asset over the Tamron is probably that reduced 14 millimeters in length. And so that makes it, just as you can see, a considerably more compact, and that I think may be enough for some shooters. So if you have one of the smaller cameras like an A7C and you want a full frame, f2.8 standard zoom, this is obviously going to be a really nice option for you. It's priced at right around $900 US. So there's not a massive difference between it and the 24 to 70 millimeter. It's only $200 difference in the US market. So if, from just a value consideration, I don't know that that's a huge argument, because the 24 to 70 does give you more things. Better weather sealing, goes all the way to 24 millimeters, a few extra features in terms of lens design. And so, I don't know that $200 makes a compelling argument, but certainly size does make a compelling argument, with this lens being somewhere around 73% lighter than what the 24 to 70 millimeter is. It is 835 grams, and at 470 grams, that's a significant difference. And so if you have a small, compact, camera body and you want to travel light, but you still want the flexibility of a zoom, the new Sigma 28 to 70 millimeter f2.8 DN lens may be just what you have been looking for. I'm Dustin Abbott. If you look in the description down below, you can find linkage to my full text review. I would also, if you want more information, recommend that you watch the definitive review that will give you more information. There's linkage there also to an image gallery if you want to see photos. Also, there is linkage there to some purchasing links. However, with this lens just being announced this week, some of those retailers may need a little time to populate and get those listings up. I understand that the lens will start shipping somewhere in middle of March is the goal there. There's also linkage to follow me on social media, to become a patron, to sign up for my newsletter that comes out every Thursday. Linkage there if you're interested in some of my merchandise. And of course, if you haven't already, please click that subscribe button right here on YouTube, and make sure to click that bell so you get notification when new content drops. Thanks for watching. Have a great day, and let the light in.